This episode is brought to you by Wildgrain. Newly minted pop icon Chappell Roan has been speaking out about the downsides of being super famous.
I don't want whatever the f you think you're supposed to be entitled to whenever you see a celebrity.
And her fans have had some thoughts about this. Now, many of them accused Roan of being ungrateful for the privileges of fame and of disrespecting the fans who have been mainlining Pink Pony Club for months. We've heard this refrain before about everyone from Halsey, Mitski, Phoebe Bridgers to K-pop star Katrina. When Justin Bieber recently asked some young fans to kindly just leave him alone, the media framed this as a freakout. Now, this all speaks to the way our society sees invasions of celebrity privacy as simply the price of fame. It's how I feel when once every 10 days someone says, "Are you the guy that does the YouTube thing?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "Oh, cool, I used to watch it when I was in high school." And I say, "Thanks, man." And they go, "Yeah, whatever." That wasn't the end of Roan's PR troubles. Her political views were the next thing that came under some major fire.
There's problems on both sides.
Fans who seemed to even minimally disagree with her expressed outrage and a sense of betrayal. At the time that we're recording this, Roan has just canceled 2 upcoming concerts to prioritize her mental health, citing an overwhelming few weeks. Now, unlike fans, fellow pop stars, people like Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Elton John, Sabrina Carpenter, rallied to Roan's defense. Singer Mitski reached out to humbly welcome Roan to the shittiest exclusive club in the world. Now, clearly, Roan tapped into something that a lot of pop stars seem to feel, but may be reluctant to articulate. And the fan response to her comments makes it obvious why. Now, these dual reactions, outrage from fans and solidarity from pop cohorts, suggest a real disconnect between the way that we view famous people and the way they experience the world. Listen, guys, I totally get it. It's tough to muster empathy for people who might make more money in a week than we will in a year. But this isn't just about Chappell Roan needing security guards to literally go outside and do anything. It's about what we're doing when we treat celebrities like Roan like commodities, and how these distorted relationships can then creep into our own unfamous lives. Because when everyone is a commodity, our humanity becomes secondary to our ability to be profitable, which, might not be the world we want to live in. But if you're famous, let us know in the comments if we're right. There's a famous chef who's commented a few times. If you're watching, I know you and love you and think you're really cool. Okay, guys, before we get into it, a little announcement. Fall is here, the temperatures are dropping, and it's time to start baking delicious homemade favorites. Now, Wildgrain is here to help you warm up your house with sourdough breads, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries, including a wide array of seasonal offerings. Rumor has it that they're gonna have a small number of apple cider donuts, so get them before they sell out. They make it so easy by doing all of the hard work for you. If you're not familiar with Wildgrain, it's the first baked from frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. Wildgrain's boxes are fully customizable to your taste and dietary restrictions. In addition to their classic variety box, they recently launched a new gluten-free box and a plant-based box that is 100% vegan. Best of all, they take the hassle out of baking, since all items baked from frozen in 25 minutes or less with no mess or cleanup. Now, in my first box, I got sourdough loaf, some tonarelli pasta, pumpkin biscuits, ciabatta rolls, giant snickerdoodles, mini waffles, and croissants. My favorite was actually the pumpkin biscuits. I think it's something about the seasonality of pumpkin. All the goodies in my Wildgrain box were top-notch, incredibly fresh, and I loved how quick it was to have warm pastries on my table. So are you ready to bring all your favorite carbs right to your doorstep? Be sure to check out Wildgrain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads, pastas, and pastries. For a limited time, Wildgrain is offering our listeners $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/wisecrack to start your subscription. You heard me, free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/wisecrack. That's wildgrain.com/wisecrack, or you can use promo code Wisecrack at checkout. Okay, now let's get back to the show. Being famous usually means being rich. So it's not surprising that 1 in 3 millennials wants to be famous. Many are willing to sacrifice relationships and family for the privilege. Or, as a serial killer wrote to Wichita police in 1978, "How many times do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper?" I would guess 7. Now, even those of us who have no desire for fame usually still have to turn ourselves into an online brand for the sake of our professional lives. Maintaining a digital presence comes with some level of visibility. And typically, the greater your visibility, the greater your success. It's almost tautological, right? Because to be famous is to be successful. And to be successful is to be famous, or at least, well known in some field or even just your office. As much as our society revolves around celebrities, we probably don't often stop and think about what a celebrity actually is. Well, for historian Daniel J. Boorstin, he is neither good nor bad, great nor petty. He is the human pseudo-event. He has been fabricated on purpose to satisfy our exaggerated expectations of human greatness. With the increased access we have to celebrities, famous people are just like us, but somehow more than us.
I know, Jerry, that you are as human as the rest of us, if not more so.
In worshiping celebrities, we then elevate our own humanity. What they are, we might one day become. It's like when I first started losing my hair, and then I was watching a movie with Jason Statham in it, and I was like, damn, he's bald, and he's really cool. So I was like, maybe one day I'll become Jason Statham. Still hoping. As Boorstin puts it, we imitate celebrities as if they were cast in the mold of greatness. Yet the celebrity is usually nothing greater than a more publicized version of us. In imitating him, we are simply imitating ourselves. It's almost like Roan is just another person that got screwed by a bad situationship. The difference is she has a way better voice than you. But being just like us doesn't make celebrities less consequential in the cultural imagination. As Richard Dyer observed, stars articulate what it is to be a human being in contemporary society. They articulate both the promise and the difficulty that the notion of individuality presents for all of us who live by it. And the rise of the modern celebrity emerged alongside the emphasis on the individualized self has been the cultural and economic cornerstone of Western society. Now, focused on the self had previously been seen as intrinsically sinful because it turned your attention away from the transcendent glory of God. But, especially with the rise of democracy, the conception of people evolved to one that emphasizes the notion of persons as more or less integrated universes and distinctive wholes. That's according to social psychologist Edward E. Sampson. If you're thinking like, oh, he's definitely about to pivot and start talking about capitalism, you're not wrong, but not quite yet. Now, the elevation of the self presents a paradox for a world that is constantly becoming more interconnected and populated. The average person in the medieval era likely met approximately 100 people in their life.
How many people have I met? I don't know.
What, in total?
Yep. How many people have you met?
Now, most of us have met more people than that before we start preschool. And this exposure can make any one individual seem increasingly insignificant. But the individual is the organizing principle of our society and thus has to matter. While being just another atomized consumer can make us feel disposable, celebrities remind us of the sheer potential of the individualized self.
Forgetting she was my employer. Just becoming a fan. Excited about that actress up there on the screen.
It's why we love stories about celebrities that rose from rags to riches. It kind of represents the fact that under a certain word that rhymes with capitalism, we can really do anything if we work hard. Now, through the sheer scope of their success, the dream of fame promises a liberation from powerless anonymity, according to cultural historian Leo Braudy. Also, that's not the same Leo Braudy as the contestant on season 7 of Love is Blind. What a show, by the way. I love that one. It's way better than The Bachelor. If you've ever been on the show, we'd love to talk to you. If you have a friend that's been on the show, please be the connector between me and them. But as Braudy notes, there appears to be an inverse relationship between the prioritization of fame and the concept of the afterlife. In other words, societies that don't believe in the promise of heaven are more likely to believe in the promise of fame. I guess except America, because I feel like we both love celebrities and love heaven. Heaven's one of our top favorite things here in America. Now, an effect of this is that fame operates like a stand-in for religion, especially in secular societies. In his book Celebrity, scholar Chris Rojek compares the star to the shaman because of their ability to create a frenzy, blurring the line between fame worshiping and more religious types of worship. Indeed, the word fan is actually religious in meaning, coming from the Latin word fanaticus, which means belonging to the temple. Now, in a secular society that hyper-prioritizes the individual, the celebrity might be the closest thing we have to the divine. But the celebrity worship is covering up something more insidious, which is the worship of commodities, something that also is known as commodity fetishism. Now, this concept, famously theorized by a guy whose name rhymes with Jarl Farks, is a critique of the way that we deify things under capitalism. This happens when we take something with material and economic value Maybe it's a pair of sneakers, a cool custom hat, a fancy chair, and then we give it a sort of spiritual value, usually without even realizing that we're doing it. This makes the commodity seem like a magical thing that showed up just for us, rather than being a product created by human beings in a particular place and time. This allows us to basically ignore economic and social relations when we're caught up in the glory of the commodity. Now, this is a absolutely crucial part of how capitalism works, because we're more likely to lean into our role as individual consumers when the commodities that we're consuming have this magical spiritual energy. We see this in how so much of our modern life revolves around signifiers of consumption, whether that be where we eat, how we dress, where we travel. And in shows like The Righteous Gemstones satirize, even religion itself has been taken over by commodity fetishism. And all of this extends to celebrities. Now, the logic of capital requires the constant expansion of what can be commodified. And according to Rojek, the market inevitably turned the public face of the celebrity into a commodity. They're commodities both in our eyes, the ones who pay for their music, their movies, their branded products, all while treating them like gods, and for the record labels and marketing agencies that use them as a commodity to increase their profit margins. But celebrities aren't just powerful commodities. They're also essential to the functioning of consumer culture at large. Now, because capitalism requires us to consume endlessly, it depends on our desires remaining abstract, which means that they must be transferable. Consumers need to want next year's AirPod Pros as much as they covet this year's, because if they made one that was so good it killed our desire, we would never want another one.
Yeah, but see, there's a difference between like and love. Because I like my Skechers, but I love my Prada backpack.
But I love my Skechers.
That's because you don't have a Prada backpack.
According to Rojek, celebrity culture is one of the most important mechanisms for mobilizing abstract desire. It embodies desire in animate object, which allows for deeper levels of attachment and identification than with inanimate commodities. Celebrities can be reinvented to renew desire. In a word, they humanize desire. Like if you buy an espresso machine because George Clooney is the brand ambassador and you saw him in a commercial, your humble morning coffee is now imbued with the world historical riz of Danny Ocean himself. In this way, celebrities are the logical merging of the interrelated phenomena of capitalism and individualization. Their value as commodities rest in the desirability of their unique persona and then ability to attract our attention and our dollars. And once we've invested in our favorite celebrity commodity, whom we idolize with a fervor that once would have been saved for Jesus himself, we're unable to handle them acting like just another human being.
I'm a random bitch. You're a random bitch.
Consider how Roan was first critiqued by fans for not embracing her role as a benevolent pop star who adores her fans as much as they adore her. Now, then she was further lambasted when she didn't endorse their presidential candidate of choice in the way they wanted her to, and then when she explained the specifics of her politics, fans who even marginally disagreed were also outraged. As previously mentioned, this led to her canceling upcoming shows. And while this is pure speculation on my part, it's hard to imagine that her record label and management teams weren't also pretty pissed about all this, right? Because their prized commodity acted like a human and then alienated some potential consumers. Now, this reflects the tension inherent to the construction of the celebrity as a commodity, which isn't entirely under the control of even the most exacting pop star. Yeah, I mean you, Taylor. Even you're not totally in control. Rather, it's a collaboration amongst the celebrity industry, and the celebrity's fans. Now, the celebrity becomes what Richard Dyer calls the star text, i.e. the composite of their work, persona, media coverage, fan memes, etc. Because any given pop star's narrative isn't fully in their control. Fans have the power to fill in some of the blanks, projecting their own expectations onto a celebrity. When they don't meet our expectations, things get ugly. Have you ever met a celebrity and they sucked? Name them in the comments, Fuck them. Call them out. Now, there's a long history of this sort of thing, from Muhammad Ali refusing to serve in Vietnam, Jane Fonda hanging out with the Viet Cong, Marlon Brando asking an indigenous American activist to decline an Oscar on his behalf. More recently, Melissa Barrera has been cut from the Scream franchise for expressing solidarity with Gazans. And considering how entrenched our expectations become in the star text of someone like Chappell Roan, it becomes clear why being ungrateful is the ultimate unforgivable sin. The culture industry, but popular music in particular, loves to create hot commodities out of authentic individuals. Singers are expected to chronicle their own lives as opposed to film or TV stars who get to somewhat disappear into their roles. As P. David Marshall writes, the close connection of the popular music performer to the audience demarcates the celebrity's power from other celebrity forms. As such, these stars are expected to exemplify what Marshall calls a new public intimacy, which he notes is especially central to the construction of female celebrity. Treating women different in society? Can't believe it. As Marshall explains, the demarcations of propriety have broken down to the point that fame and celebrity are naturally linked with private revelation for public consumption, and that hidden intimacies have become some sort of desire for an inner truth and meaning that is oddly tied to prurient and voyeuristic pleasures. We feel entitled to the most personal aspects of a pop star's life, which taken to its logical and just grossest extent looks like a man grabbing Chappell Roan and kissing her while she's at a bar with friends. Of course, some of this intimacy is illusory, because as we've seen, the celebrity persona is a collaborative construct, not an organic process. And because we know this on some level, we're constantly assessing our pop stars for displays of authenticity or the lack thereof, which is why there were early rumors that Roan was a industry plant. In short, just because we feel intimate with a star who is apparently sung about the most personal parts of their life doesn't mean that that intimacy is real. On a simple level, when Chappell tells us that we don't know her, she's trying to separate her humanity from her status as a commodity.
Would you go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?"
And this breaks the illusion of intimacy that fans have invested their money and time in. It also makes the work they've done as fans, elevating that persona, feel unappreciated. But it doesn't stop there, because pop stars who do comply with their commodification are also doing something incredibly significant. Now, according to Marshall, the star who participates openly as a marketable commodity serves as a powerful type of legitimation of capitalism. For Richard Dyer, they're the total embodiment and personification of capitalist ideology.
Do I look familiar?
Now, consider my friend and yours, Taylor Swift, who's built an entire career selling her authenticity and attempting to erase any demarcation between her selfhood and her status as commodity. And this all really matters, because if celebrities teach us how to be human, and they also function as commodities, they're basically encouraging all of us to view ourselves as commodities and construct ourselves accordingly. Or as Chris Rojek puts it, celebrity culture teaches us to construct ourselves into objects that immediately arouse sentiments of desire and approval in others. Much of this has to do with cultivating the right public face and public persona, specifically the one that will attract the most attention. Now, Rojek argues that the way we present ourselves, interact socially, and set life goals is now mediagenic, i.e. it's tailor-made for mass media communications. Consider how we turn every life event into content. Now, part of the way we achieve the mediagenic touch is by taking inspiration from and modeling ourselves after the behaviors and presentation of celebrities.
You're putting leeches on your face. To me, more does it. Plus, it makes PETA furious. And if PETA doesn't love you or hate you, you're a nobody.
This is indicative of what sociologist Anthony Giddens calls life politics, or the overarching contemporary political project that, in contrast to the collective political change prioritized in the 20th century, is focused on individual self-actualization. Now, under this paradigm, as Rojek explains, social cachet derives from holding the right opinions and cultivating the right body culture. In the age of life politics, individuals possess an accentuated awareness of the construction of the public face and appropriate material from public life to ensure that the right kind of match between self and society is achieved. We engage in constant reflexive restructuring, i.e. the constant monitoring and tweaking of our public image. Like Taylor Swift deftly navigating a public breakup, we're constantly constructing ourselves as a commodity for whatever captive audience we have.
It's like I'm in a cage, and not the fun kind where you dance while USC football recruits throw hot coins at you.
Now, much of this happens online, an environment that's perfectly suited to celebrity logic, where your ability to capture and maintain attention is what creates value. But commodifying ourselves has consequences. Reducing our lives to their exchange value, whether via likes or sponsorships or just more eyeballs. For example, researcher Sophia P. Caldera writes, Instagrammable aesthetics can become a lens through which to appreciate everyday experience, privileging those moments and objects deemed more suitable for Instagram and capable of attracting more likes. Scholar Nick Couldry adds that the constant work of negotiating one's identity on social media normalizes a particular type of individualism, a self-improvement project that does not necessarily rate caring for others as a high priority. In other words, a world where everyone acts like celebrities isn't a world bursting with empathy and humanity. And of course, we won't all become famous, no matter how many well-lit selfies we post. But again, this is where celebrities come in. As Marshall writes, the star is part of a system of false promise and the system of capital, which offers the reward of stardom to a random few in order to perpetuate the myth of potential universal success. Now, indeed, part of Roan's appeal was her Cinderella-esque rise from working in a drive-thru coffee kiosk to headlining Lollapalooza. This, coupled with her outspoken celebration of queer culture, may have facilitated an especially potent form of public intimacy. This might explain why it was so painful for some fans to be told not to use her legal name. Now, we already know that celebrities help us negotiate and articulate what it means to be a human under capitalism. That meaning isn't set in stone because personhood isn't static. As a result, Dyer writes, the whole phenomenon of stardom is unstable, never at a point of rest or equilibrium, constantly lurching from one formulation of what being human is to another. When Roan rejects elements of celebrity culture or even our political economic culture, like when she recently criticized liberals, she rocks the boat a little, or honestly a lot.
Fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left.
Now, in a society where we're all trying to be our most valuable, commodified self, and where celebrities are the most successful at that, somebody as famous as Roan refusing to be reduced to a commodified persona is massively destabilizing. Pointing out the fundamental artifice of our public intimacy with her and asserting her right to greater privacy doesn't just threaten how we understand ourselves as fans, but how we understand and prioritize ourselves as human beings. When we're all investing energy into attaining a fraction of the fame that someone like Roan enjoys, in part because, we see it as an economic necessity, her complaints about having achieved it feel like she's leveraging a newfound privilege. Now, Roan might not be trying to make some sort of Marxist point here, but when she complains about fans feeling ownership over her, she's suggesting that there's something fundamentally sick about a society that views her and all of us as commodities. And when she says that fame isn't all it's cracked up to be, she undermines a project that so many people in our society have been taught to make their number one pursuit. But hey, what do you guys think? I would love to know in the comments. Before I go, just a huge shout out to all of our patrons. We have a link in the description to our Patreon community. When you sign up, you get videos early without ads, some extra audio and video content, and it's a great way to support the channel. If you haven't done it yet, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, maybe leave a comment. It all helps us out a whole lot. In the meantime, I want you to know that to me, you're all my favorite celebrity. I'll see you next time.